The tension pin gave way with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the silent corridor. My hands were steady. That was the thing that surprised me most. 3 months of planning, 6 weeks embedded in Alessio Ravenna's estate, and my fingers didn't shake as I worked the picks through the ancient lock mechanism. The kind of lock that cost more than most people's cars. The kind designed to make you think it was impregnable while hiding a fatal flaw in its 19th century engineering. I'd learned to pick locks at 14. Not from some criminal mentor or YouTube tutorial, but from necessity. When your mother locks herself in the bathroom with a bottle of pills and the door is solid oak, you learn fast. The skill had followed me through life like a shadow, useful in ways I'd never anticipated. The lock surrendered. The heavy mahogany door to Alessio Ravenna's private office swung inward on hinges so well maintained they made no sound. I should have known then. Should have recognized the trap in the perfection of it. The office was dark except for the moonlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the Amalfi coast. The view was worth millions, the kind of beauty that made you understand why men killed for territory. But I wasn't here for the view. I slipped inside, easing the door closed behind me. My pen light clicked on, the narrow beam cutting through darkness as I moved toward his desk. Antique walnut, probably 18th century, with a leather inlay the color of old blood. Everything in Alessio Ravenna's world was like this. Beautiful, expensive, and if you looked close enough, stained with violence. I'd been hired 5 weeks ago as an archivist. His father had died 6 months prior, leaving behind a private library of over 10,000 volumes and an equal number of loose documents that needed cataloging. The estate was looking for someone with expertise in historical preservation and Renaissance Italian. Someone who could read old Tuscan dialects and organize chaos into searchable order. I'd lied on exactly 3 items in my application. My name wasn't really Mira Valente. I didn't have a doctorate from the University of Bologna. And I wasn't here because I loved dusty books and dead languages. I was here because 16 years ago, Alessio's father had killed mine. Not directly. Men like Dante Ravenna never pulled triggers themselves. But the order had come from him, passed down through layers of insulation until some nameless soldier put 3 bullets in a man whose only crime was witnessing something he shouldn't have. My father had been a driver for a shipping company the Ravennas controlled. He'd seen a container open that was supposed to stay sealed. He'd seen what was inside. And 2 days later he'd driven his car off a cliff on the same winding coastal road I could see from this window. The police called it an accident. My mother had known better, but knowing didn't bring him back. It just filled her with a grief that eventually drowned her as surely as if she'd walked into the sea. I'd spent 16 years preparing for this moment. Learning languages and history and the art of becoming invisible in plain sight. Building a cover identity so thorough even Alessio's paranoid background checks hadn't cracked it. And now I was here in the heart of his domain looking for the one thing that could destroy him. The ledger. Dante Ravenna had been old school. He'd kept records of everything, written in code in a series of leather-bound journals. Most had been destroyed after his death, fed to fire under Alessio's orders. But rumors persisted among the household staff that one remained. The master ledger. The Rosetta Stone that could decrypt all the others. The one Alessio kept locked in his private office, in a safe behind a painting that everyone knew about but no one had ever seen opened. I moved the penlight across the walls. There. A Caravaggio, small but priceless, depicting Judith beheading Holofernes. The symbolism wasn't subtle. The frame was slightly proud of the wall, suggesting depth behind it. I crossed the room, my footsteps silent on Persian rugs that cost more than I'd earn in a decade of legitimate work. Up close, the painting was stunning. The detail in Judith's face, the mix of determination and revulsion as she did what needed to be done. I understood that expression. I'd seen it in my own mirror. The frame lifted away from the wall with surprising ease. Behind it, a modern safe digital keypad glowing soft blue in the darkness. This was the part I'd worried about. Locks I could pick. Safes were different. But I'd watched Alessio for 5 weeks. Watched the way his fingers moved when he thought no one was looking. Had memorized the pattern, the rhythm. People were creatures of habit. Even careful people. Especially careful people. I reached for the keypad. Looking for something? The voice came from behind me, low and dark as the room itself. Not loud. Didn't need to be. The question landed like a physical blow, stopping my heart mid-beat. I spun around, the penlight swinging wildly before I killed it. Darkness rushed back in, but my eyes had already adjusted enough to see him. Alessio Ravenna sat in the leather chair by the window, one leg crossed over the other, hands relaxed on the armrests. He'd been there the whole time. Sitting in shadow while I picked his lock, crossed his office and reached for his safe. Waiting. He made no move to rise. Made no move at all except to reach out and turn on the desk lamp beside him. Soft golden light bloomed, painting him in warm tones that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less. I'd seen him dozens of times in the past 5 weeks. Had catalogued his routines, his habits, the way he moved through the world like he owned not just the estate but the very air inside it. But I'd always seen him as the head of the family. Formal. Controlled. Surrounded by staff and security and the invisible walls of power. This was different. This was personal. He was younger than his reputation suggested. 38, I knew from the research, but he looked younger in the lamplight. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. He wore black trousers and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, no jacket, no tie. The casual uniform of a man alone in his private space. But it was his eyes that stopped me cold. I'd seen them before, in passing, in meetings where he'd barely registered my presence. But I'd never had them focused on me like this. Completely. Absolutely. The way a wolf focuses on movement in the periphery before it decides whether you're prey or threat. They were dark. Not brown. Not quite black. Some color in between that had no name, that absorbed light without reflecting it back. The kind of eyes that saw everything and revealed nothing. How long have you been planning this, Mira? He said my false name with a slight emphasis that made it clear he knew it was false. Had probably known from the beginning. My throat was dry as bone. I'd prepared speeches for getting caught. Explanations, excuses, lies upon lies. They all evaporated under that steady gaze. I don't know what you mean. My voice came out steadier than I felt. I was looking for the bathroom. Got lost. His mouth curved slightly. Not a smile. Something more dangerous. The bathroom. He said it like he was tasting the lie, finding it amusing. In my private office. Behind a locked door you picked with professional efficiency. At 2 a.m. He stood then and I understood why people feared him. He wasn't exceptionally tall, maybe 6'1", but he moved with an economy of motion that suggested violence held in careful check. Like a blade in a sheath, dangerous not despite its stillness but because of it. He crossed the room toward me. I stood my ground, locked pick still in my hand, trapped between him and the safe I'd been about to open. He stopped 3 feet away. Close enough that I could smell him, cedar and something darker, smoke maybe, or the ghost of expensive whiskey. Close enough that I had to tilt my head slightly to hold his gaze. You're good. His voice was conversational, like we were discussing the weather. The background check you submitted was flawless. The university confirmed your credentials when my people called. Your references were glowing. Your knowledge of Renaissance manuscripts is genuinely impressive. He paused, letting that sit between us. But you made one mistake. My heart was a war drum in my chest. What mistake? You were too perfect. No one is that perfect. No gaps in employment. No failed relationships. No digital footprint before 3 years ago. You appeared fully formed like Athena from Zeus's head. That kind of clean only happens when someone scrubs very, very carefully. He reached out. I tensed, but he didn't touch me. His hand moved past my shoulder to the safe I'd been about to open. He keyed in the code with quick, efficient movements. The safe opened with a hydraulic hiss. Inside was a single leather journal. He pulled it out, held it up between us. Is this what you're looking for? The master ledger. The one that supposedly contains all my father's sins written in his own hand. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. The thing I'd risked everything for was right there, close enough to touch. He opened it. Turned it so I could see. The pages were blank. Every single one. Virgin leather and empty paper. My father burned the original before he died. He was sentimental about many things but not about evidence. This is just a prop. Yes. Something to tempt the ambitious and the vengeful. Something to see who would come looking. He closed the journal, set it on the edge of his desk. When he looked at me again, his eyes held something new. Not anger. Curiosity. So now we get to the interesting question. Who sent you Miravalente? Who isn't Miravalente? The Calabrians? The Russians? The Polizia di Stato running some absurdly optimistic undercover operation? None of them. The truth surprised me by coming out. Maybe because lies had stopped working the moment he'd spoken from the shadows. Maybe because some part of me was tired of carrying the weight alone. Then who? No one sent me. I came myself. For my father. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air between us. The quality of his attention sharpened. Your father. Tommaso Lant. He was a driver for your father's shipping company. 16 years ago he saw something in a container he wasn't supposed to see. 2 days later he drove off the cliff road. The one you can see from this window. The silence that followed felt like standing on train tracks, feeling the vibration of something massive approaching. Alessio was utterly still. I watched him process the information, saw the precise moment he accessed whatever files his mind kept on past operations, past necessities, past bodies that had been necessary to the functioning of the machine. Tommaso Lant. He said the name slowly and I hated how it sounded in his mouth. He was listed as an accident. He was murdered. Probably. His voice was clinical, matter-of-fact. My father eliminated potential threats. It was efficient if not always just. If your father saw something he shouldn't have, then yes, he was likely killed. Though not by my father's own hand. Just his order. Just his order. Alessio agreed. He didn't apologize. Didn't offer excuses. The honesty was more brutal than any lie would have been. He moved then, not toward me but to the side, giving me a clear path to the door. You should leave now, Mira, or whoever you are. You should walk out of this room, out of this estate, out of my city. You should disappear as thoroughly as you appeared. And if I don't? Then we have a problem. Because you broke into my private office. You attempted to access my safe. You admitted to being here under false pretenses with the intent to find evidence against me. In my world that has consequences. He walked to a small bar cart in the corner, poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. He held one out to me. But you interest me. That's rare enough to buy you a conversation before consequences. I should have run. Should have taken the escape he was offering and counted myself lucky to leave with my life. But I'd come too far. Sacrificed too much. And some reckless part of me wanted to see this through to whatever end it reached. I took the glass. Our fingers brushed. The contact was electric, shocking in its intensity. He noticed. I saw it in the slight widening of his eyes, the pause before he withdrew his hand. It wasn't a request. But it wasn't quite a command either. Something in between. I sat in the chair across from his desk. He took his seat behind it, the power dynamic clear in the geography. This was his kingdom. I was a trespasser granted temporary asylum. Tell me about him. Your father. Why? Because I want to understand what brought you here. What made you spend years building a false identity and infiltrating my household. People don't do that for simple revenge. They do it for love. Or for guilt. Or for some combination of both. He took a sip of his drink, watching me over the rim of the glass. So tell me. Who is Tommaso Lant? The question shouldn't have undone me. But it did. Because no one had asked me about my father in years. Not his name. Not who he was. People who knew the story looked at me with pity and changed the subject. People who didn't know treated him like a ghost. An absence that didn't need explanation. But Alessio Ravenna, the son of the man who'd ordered my father killed, was asking me to tell him who my father was. He was kind. The words came slow at first. He worked long hours, but he always came home for dinner. Always tucked me in. He read to me. Old stories, the kind passed down through families. He sang off-key and made terrible jokes and fixed things around the house with more enthusiasm than skill. My throat tightened. He was just a good man. A normal man. He didn't want anything except to provide for his family. And your father killed him for seeing something he shouldn't have. For being in the wrong place at the wrong moment. Alessio was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had changed. Softer. More dangerous. My father killed a lot of good men. A lot of normal men. It was the cost of doing business in his world. In our world. He looked at me with something I couldn't identify. The problem is that you came here looking for justice. But justice doesn't exist in this world, Mira. Only power. Only leverage. Only debts paid and debts owed. Then I'll settle for revenge. Revenge. He smiled, and it was the saddest smile I'd ever seen. Revenge is just another word for suicide with extra steps. Even if you'd found the ledger, even if it had been real, what did you think would happen? You'd go to the police? They're paid by families like mine. You'd go to the press? They know better than to print what we don't want printed. You'd try to use it as leverage against me? I'd bury you so deep your ghost would get lost on the way up. He leaned forward, and the lamplight caught the planes of his face, throwing shadows that made him look like something carved from stone. You can't win this, Mira. You never could have. The game was rigged before you sat down to play it. Then why am I still breathing? That's the question, isn't it? He walked around the desk. This time when he came close, he didn't stop at 3 feet. He came close enough that I had to tilt my head back to hold his gaze. Close enough that I could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the shadow of stubble along his jaw, the tiny scar through his left eyebrow. Close enough that when he spoke, I felt the words more than heard them. You're still breathing because you did something no one has done in 5 years. You surprised me. You got through my security, my background checks, my paranoia. You spent 5 weeks in my home and I didn't see you. Not really. You were just another face, another employee, another piece of furniture. His hand came up, slow enough that I could have moved if I wanted. His fingers brushed my jaw, tilting my face into the light. But now I see you. And the question is, what do I do with you now that I do? His thumb traced along my cheekbone. The touch was gentle. Terrifying in its gentleness. I should kill you. It's the smart play. The safe play. You're a threat. You're a variable I can't control. You're here to destroy me or die trying. His eyes searched mine. But I'm not going to kill you, Mira. Why not? Because you're right. Your father was killed for seeing something he shouldn't have. That was unjust. It was wrong. And I can't fix it. I can't bring him back. I can't undo what my father did. His hand dropped from my face. He stepped back, putting distance between us. But I can offer you something else. Information. Answers. The truth about what your father saw. What got him killed. And maybe, if you're very brave or very stupid, a chance to do something about it. What kind of something? The kind that will either give you the revenge you came here for or get us both killed in the process. He walked to the window, looked out at the moonlit coast where my father had died. Your father saw a container being opened that night. You know that much. What you don't know is what was inside. Not drugs. Not weapons. Something worse. Something that connects to shipments still happening now. Still moving through channels my father established. Still generating revenue that flows into accounts I don't fully control. He turned back to me. My father's empire didn't die with him, Mira. Parts of it did. Parts one shut down the moment I took over. But other parts survived. Other parts were woven too deeply into the structure to remove without bringing the whole thing down. And one of those parts is whatever your father saw. I've spent 3 years trying to find it. Trying to trace the money, follow the shipments, identify the players. But it's a ghost. It's hidden so well that even with all my resources I can't crack it. Because my father didn't trust anyone. Not even me. Especially not me. He moved back to the desk, picked up the blank ledger. This isn't the only prop he left behind. The real ledger exists. I know it does. But it's not here. It's somewhere only someone who knew him well would think to look. And you, with your years of planning and your doctoral-level knowledge of how to decode Old Italian, might be exactly the kind of person who could find it. You want me to help you. I want us to help each other. You want revenge for your father. I want control of my own empire. Our interests align. Temporarily. Dangerously. But they align. And when we find it, when I have what I need to prove your father ordered mine killed, then you'll have a choice. Use it to destroy me. Or use it to help me destroy the thing that killed your father in the first place. He held out his hand. What do you say, Miravalente? Who isn't Miravalente? You have a deal. I looked at his hand. At the offer of alliance with the devil. At the only chance I'd ever have to finish what I'd started. Every rational instinct I had screamed to run. To refuse. To take my chances with escape and disappearance. But I was my father's daughter. And my father had been brave enough to see something terrible and try to do something about it. Even if it killed him. I took Alessio Ravenna's hand. His grip was warm. Strong. The grip of a man who didn't make offers he didn't intend to keep. Good. His smile was sharp as a blade. Then let's begin. He didn't let go of my hand. Instead he pulled me closer, his other hand coming up to cup the back of my neck. The touch was possessive. A promise and a threat woven together. First rule, Mira. No more lies between us. You work for me now. Really work for me. Not as an archivist. As something far more valuable. My partner in hunting ghost. Second rule. You don't leave this estate without my permission. You don't make a move without my knowledge. You are under my protection now, which means you're under my control. Third rule. His voice dropped, became something darker. You never break into my office again. If you want something from me, you ask. And if I decide to give it to you, you'll take it from my hand like a gift, not steal it like a thief. He released me then, but the impression of his touch lingered on my skin like a brand. We start tomorrow. Tonight you go back to your room. You don't tell anyone about this conversation. You don't contact anyone outside these walls. You're mine now, Mira. For better or worse. Until this is finished or until one of us is dead. He walked to the door, opened it. The hallway beyond was dark and empty. Sleep well. You're going to need your strength for what comes next. I walked past him, my legs unsteady, my mind reeling. As I reached the threshold, his voice stopped me one last time. Mira. I turned. Welcome to the family. The door closed behind me with a soft click that sounded like a cell door locking. I stood in the dark hallway, my heart still racing, Alessio Ravenna's words echoing in my head. I'd come here for revenge. For justice. For my father's ghost. But I'd just made a deal with the son of his killer. Had agreed to work with the man I'd spent years preparing to destroy. And the most terrifying part wasn't that I'd done it. It was that some reckless, traitorous part of me wanted to see where this led. Wanted to stand beside Alessio Ravenna in the dark and hunt ghosts and maybe, just maybe, find something that looked like truth in the lies we'd both been living. I walked back to my room in the servants' wing, past guards who'd been told I was authorized, past cameras that had watched me pick that lock and done nothing to stop me. Because Alessio had known. Had let me come. Had waited in the dark for me to reveal myself. He'd been hunting me while I thought I was hunting him. And now we were hunting something together. I locked my door. Sat on my narrow bed. Looked at my hands and saw they were shaking now, the adrenaline finally catching up. Tomorrow everything would change. Tomorrow I would stop being Miravalente the fake archivist and become something new. Something dangerous. Something that stood beside Alessio Ravenna and looked into the darkness his father had left behind. I should have been terrified. I was. But I was also, for the first time in 16 years, alive. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Alessio sitting in that chair, waiting in the dark like a spider at the center of his web. Felt his hand on my neck, possessive and warm. Heard his voice promising partnership and threats in the same breath. Morning came with a soft knock. Not the usual maid. When I opened the door, Luca stood there. Alessio's head of security, the man who moved through the estate like a shadow with a pulse. Scarred face, cold eyes, the kind of man who'd killed people and slept just fine afterward. The Don wants you in the East Library. No. Not a request. I followed him through corridors I'd learned during my 5 weeks of careful observation. But now the geography felt different. I wasn't sneaking anymore. Wasn't invisible. Every guard we passed looked at me, really looked at me, and their eyes held new assessment. They knew something had shifted. Knew I was no longer just staff. The East Library was smaller than the main one, more intimate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens where morning light turned everything gold. Books lined the walls, but these weren't the ancient manuscripts I'd been cataloging. These were modern. Ledgers, files, records of the Empire's current operations. Alessio stood at a table covered in documents. He'd changed into a suit dark gray that made him look like he'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. But there was nothing soft about him. The suit was armor and the man inside it was pure controlled violence. He looked up when I entered. Those dark eyes tracked me across the room, cataloging every detail. I dressed carefully this morning, discarding the dowdy professional clothes I'd worn as camouflage. Not provocative but not invisible either. Dark trousers, fitted white blouse, hair pulled back in a way that said I meant business. His mouth curved slightly. Approval or amusement I couldn't tell. Close the door. I did. The click was loud in the quiet room. Come here. I crossed to the table. Up close I could see what he'd been studying. Shipping manifests. Bills of lading. Customs documents. All dated within the last year. These are the ghost shipments. His finger traced a route on a map spread across the table. They move through our legitimate channels. Same ports, same routes, same customs officials we've paid to look the other way. But the cargo doesn't match our records. Weight discrepancies. Container numbers that don't exist in our system. Money flowing into accounts I don't control. He looked at me. My father set this up before he died. A parallel operation running inside the legitimate one. Hidden so well that I only noticed it 6 months ago when the numbers stopped adding up. By then he was dead. And the people who knew about it had either died with him or disappeared. Why not shut it down? Cut the routes, fire everyone involved, burn it to the ground? Because I don't know who's involved. Don't know how deep it goes. The moment I move against it, whoever's running it will disappear. Take the evidence with them. And I'll never know what my father was moving or why. His jaw tightened. Or who benefits from it now that he's gone. You think someone in your own organization is running it. I know someone is. The question is who. And why they're willing to kill to protect it. He straightened, his attention fully on me now. Your father wasn't the only one who died after seeing the wrong thing. 3 others over the last 10 years. All listed as accidents. All connected to the same shipping routes. The last one was 8 months ago. A dock supervisor named Costa. Found at the bottom of a warehouse stairwell with a broken neck. He pulled out a photograph. A man in his 50s smiling at the camera. Kind eyes. Someone's father. Someone's husband. The pattern is clear. Someone sees something. Someone dies. The operation continues. And I'm supposed to be the head of this family, but there's a snake in my house and I can't find it. That's why you let me in. Why you didn't kill me last night. Partly. He circled the table, came to stand beside me. Close enough that I could smell his cologne again, cedar and something darker. You have skills I need. Research. Languages. The ability to think like my father because you spent years studying him. And you have motivation. Personal stakes. That makes you trustworthy in a way my own people aren't. He picked up a leather folio, handed it to me. This belonged to my father. I found it in a safety deposit box after he died. It's his personal correspondence. Letters, notes, fragments of thoughts. All in old Tuscan dialect mixed with Sicilian. My Italian is modern. Functional. But this I opened the folio. The handwriting inside was cramped, archaic. This might as well be Greek. But you can read it. It wasn't a question. He'd seen my credentials, fake though they were. Knew I'd spent years mastering exactly this kind of text. I can read it. Good. Because somewhere in those pages is a clue. A name, a place, a code that will lead us to the real ledger. The one my father actually kept. And once we have that, we'll know who killed your father and who's trying to kill me. He leaned against the table, arms crossed. You work here. In this room. No one comes in without my permission. No one sees what you're doing. You report only to me. And when I find something, you tell me immediately. No matter what it is. No matter who it implicates. Even you. Especially me. The honesty in his voice was brutal. He was giving me ammunition to destroy him and trusting I wouldn't pull the trigger. Yet, what about the rest of the staff? They'll wonder why the archivist suddenly has private access to the East Library. Let them wonder. As of today, you're no longer cataloging manuscripts. You're my personal researcher. Helping with a historical project about my family's legitimate business holdings. Anyone who asks gets that story. Anyone who asks twice gets investigated. He pushed off the table, moved to the window. Luca will be outside this door. If you need anything, tell him. If anyone tries to come in, he stops them. You don't leave this room without my knowledge. I'm a prisoner. You're protected. There's a difference. Is there? He turned and something in his expression shifted. Became less the Don and more the man. You broke into my office last night, Mira. You attempted corporate espionage at minimum, potentially something far worse. In my world, that's a death sentence. Instead, I'm offering you a chance to finish what your father started. To find the truth and maybe, if we're very lucky or very good, to survive it. He crossed back to me, close enough that I had to tilt my head to hold his gaze. So yes, you're a prisoner. But you're also the only person in this house I can trust right now. Because your agenda is clear. You want revenge. That's honest. That's simple. That I can work with. What do you want? Control. Of my own empire. Of my own legacy. My father built something and parts of it are rotting from the inside. I want to cut out the rot before it spreads. I want to know who's profiting from my father's sins. And I want them to pay for it. He stepped back, giving me space. So we have aligned interests. For now. Which means we need rules. I already heard your rules last night. Those were basic. These are specific. He began to pace, hands in his pockets, energy coiled tight. You don't hide things from me. Not information, not suspicions, not fears. If you think you've found something, you tell me before you investigate further. If you think someone's watching you, you tell me immediately. If you so much as get a strange feeling, you tell me. Because whoever's running this operation knows someone's looking now. They'll be watching for threats. And you, with your sudden access and your mysterious background, you're a very obvious threat. Won't they suspect you're behind it? That you're investigating? They already suspect. But suspicion isn't proof. And as long as they think I don't know who they are, they'll keep operating. Keep making mistakes. Keep leaving traces for us to find. He stopped pacing, faced me directly. But they can't know about you. Not your real identity. Not your connection to Tommaso Lant. Not your real agenda. Because the moment they realize you're not just my researcher but my weapon aimed at them, they'll eliminate you. And they'll do it in a way that sends me a message. What kind of message? The kind written in blood. The room felt suddenly colder. This wasn't abstract anymore. This wasn't revenge fantasies and careful planning. This was real danger. Real death. He saw the shift in my expression. You can still leave, Mira. I'll give you money. New identity. Better than the one you built yourself. Enough to disappear completely. You walk away from this, from your father's ghost, from the revenge you've been chasing for 16 years. You live. The offer was genuine. I could hear it in his voice. He would let me go. Would even help me vanish. But he didn't want me to go. I could see that too in the way he watched me. Waiting. Hoping. Needing me to choose to stay. I looked at the folio on the table. At the documents spread across it like a map to some dark treasure. At the window overlooking the road where my father had died. I didn't come this far to run. His expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. Relief. Satisfaction. Something darker. Good. Then we start now. Read the letters. Find the pattern. Tell me what my father was hiding. He moved to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. Mira, be careful. Trust is a luxury in my world. I'm trusting you because I have no choice. But if you betray that trust, if you're playing a deeper game than I think, there won't be a conversation. There won't be a warning. You'll just disappear. He left before I could respond. The door closed. A moment later, I heard Luca take up position outside. I was alone in a room full of dead men's secrets, hunting a ghost with the son of the man who'd killed my father. I should have been terrified. I was. But I was also, God help me, excited. I opened the folio and began to read. The letters were a labyrinth. Dante Ravenna had written in a mixture of dialects, switching mid-sentence between Tuscan, Sicilian, and Neapolitan. Code layered on top of code. He'd been paranoid, brilliant, and deeply, carefully cruel. I worked through the morning, translating slowly, making notes. Luca brought lunch on a tray. Didn't speak. Just set it down and left. The food was excellent. I barely tasted it. By afternoon I'd found the first thread. A recurring phrase in Sicilian, Lu sangue di elagnedu, the blood of the lamb. It appeared in 3 different letters, always in reference to a shipment. Always with numbers that didn't quite make sense. I was cross-referencing the numbers against the shipping manifests when the door opened. Bless you. But different. The suit jacket was gone. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle. He carried a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. You've been working for 8 hours without a break. His voice was softer than this morning. Blessed on more man. You need to stop before your brain turns to fog. I have something. Show me. He set the glasses down, poured dark red wine into both. Handed me one. Our fingers brushed again. That same electric shock. This phrase. I pointed to the letters. It's code. But I don't know for what. And these numbers, they correspond to dates in the shipping manifests. But the shipments those dates should reference don't exist in your official records. Because they're the ghost shipments. Maybe. But why would your father reference them in personal letters unless he needed to remember something about them? Unless they were important enough that he couldn't trust anyone else with the information? Alessio leaned over my shoulder, studying the page. He was close enough that I could feel the heat of his body. Close enough that when he spoke, his breath stirred my hair. The blood of the lamb. It's biblical. However, the sacrifice that saves the chosen people. I turned my head slightly. Our faces were inches apart. It's literal. Blood. Something transported in these shipments that's related to blood. His eyes met mine. For a moment, neither of us moved. The air between us was charged. Dangerous. Then he straightened, putting distance between us. Medical supplies. Organs for transplant. Blood products. Or people. The words came out before I could stop them. The silence that followed was absolute. Explain. Human trafficking. Your father references lambs, innocents. The numbers could be people. The shipments could be smuggling operations disguised as legitimate cargo. Alessio's face went stone cold. My father was many things. A criminal. A killer. Ruthless. But he had lines he didn't cross. Children were one of them. He destroyed 2 families who tried to move into human trafficking. Personally. Violently. People lie. Even to themselves. Especially to themselves. His hand came up fast. I flinched. But he didn't hit me. His hand slammed into the table beside the letters. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Not about this. His voice was lethal quiet. Never about this. Then prove it. Find the ledger. Show me I'm wrong. We stared at each other. His rage filled the space between us like a living thing. Then something shifted. The rage banked. Controlled. Sealed away behind the mask. You're right. His voice was level again. We need the ledger. Without it, we're guessing. And guessing gets people killed. He walked to the window, stared out at the gathering darkness. There's a place. A property my father owned that isn't listed in any official records. A villa in the mountains above Ravello. He used it for private meetings. Things that needed to stay off the books. When did you last go there? Never. I didn't know it existed until I found a deed in his safety deposit box. Hidden with the letters. Then that's where we go. If the ledger exists, if there's physical evidence of what he was moving, it's there. We can't. Not yet. If someone's watching, if they see me go to a property I'm not supposed to know about, they'll know we're on to them. They'll destroy whatever's there before we arrive. Then send someone else. Send Luca. Luca's loyal, but he was my father's man first. I don't know if his loyalty extends to helping me uncover my father's crimes. He turned back to face me. But you have every reason to want the truth. And you're smart enough to know what to look for. You could go. Pretend you're doing historical research. Visiting sites connected to my family's past. You want me to go alone. I want you to go with minimal security. One driver. Someone who won't ask questions. You spend a day at the villa. You search it. You find what my father hid. And if whoever's running the ghost operation realizes what I'm doing, then you use this. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small object. A phone. Encrypted. It has one contact. Me. You press the button, I come. Wherever you are, however fast I can get there, I come. He crossed to me, placed the phone in my hand. Closed my fingers around it. I need you to do this, Mira. I need you to be brave. His hand covered mine. Warm. Strong. Can you do that? I looked at him. At the man who'd offered me partnership. Who'd trusted me with his secrets. Who was asking me to walk into danger for him. The smart answer was no. The safe answer was no. Yes. His grip tightened on my hand for just a moment. Then he released me. You leave tomorrow. Early. Before the house is awake. The driver will take you. You have until sunset. After that, I'm coming to get you whether you found anything or not. He moved to the door. Mir. I turned. Be careful. Whatever my father was hiding, it was important enough to kill for. That means it's important enough to kill again. He left. I stood alone in the library, the phone heavy in my hand, and wondered if I'd just agreed to my own execution. The villa was awound in the mountainside. Abandoned, overgrown, surrounded by olive trees gone wild. The driver, a silent man named Paolo, waited in the car while I approached the heavy wooden door. The lock was old. Simpler than the one on Alessio's office. It yielded in seconds. Inside, dust and darkness and the smell of decay. Furniture covered in sheets like ghosts. Windows shuttered tight. This was a place designed for secrets. For things that needed to stay hidden. I moved through rooms with my flashlight searching. Master bedroom, nothing. Guest rooms, nothing. Kitchen, nothing. Then the study. It was smaller than Alessio's but set up identically. Desk facing the window. Bookshelves on every wall. And yes, there a painting. Another Caravaggio. The Sacrifice of Isaac. Behind it the safe. Older than the one at the estate. Mechanical, not digital. I pulled out my picks and went to work. This lock was stubborn. Fought me for 20 minutes. My hands were cramping, sweat running down my back despite the cold. The safe opened. Leather journals. 5 of them. And a wooden box. I pulled out the journals first. Opened one. Dense handwriting, the same archaic dialect. But these weren't letters. These were ledgers. Real ones. Names, dates, amounts. Shipping routes. And in the margins, notes. Annotations in my father's handwriting. I'd found it. The evidence. My hands shook as I photographed each page with the encrypted phone. Evidence that would destroy the Ravenna Empire. Evidence that would vindicate my father. Evidence that would end Alessio. The wooden box was locked. Smaller lock. I picked it quickly. Photographs. Dozens of them. I pulled one out and my blood turned to ice water. Children. Young. Terrified. In containers. In warehouses. In transit. Lu sangue di Alagnedu. The blood of the lamb. I'd been right. God help me, I'd been right. Dante Ravenna had been trafficking children. And someone was still doing it using his routes. My stomach turned. I barely made it to the window before I was sick. I'd spent 16 years hating this man for killing my father. And he'd been so much worse than I ever imagined. I was still shaking when I heard it. A car. Coming up the mountain road. Not Paolo's car. Different engine. I grabbed the journals, shoved them in my bag. Grabbed the photographs. Ran for the door. Too late. The front door burst open. 3 men. Armed. Professional. I ran for the back of the house. Kitchen. Back door. Locked from the outside. Trapped. I pulled out the phone. Hit the button. Then turned to face them. The first man smiled. Not friendly. Signorina Valente. You've found something that doesn't belong to you. I backed against the wall, searching for a weapon. Anything. Who sent you? Someone who pays better than the Ravennas. Someone who knows the value of keeping certain secrets buried. He raised his gun. I saw my death in his eyes. Then the window behind him exploded. Glass and gunfire and chaos. The men spun toward the new threat. Alessio came through the window like an avenging angel. Oh, not an angel. Something darker. More violent. He moved with brutal efficiency. First man down with a shot to the chest. Second man's neck broken before he could turn. Third man got his gun up. Alessio was faster. The silence afterward was deafening. Alessio stood in the center of the carnage, blood on his white shirt, guns still raised. Then his eyes found me. Are you hurt? I shook my head. Couldn't speak. He crossed to me, grabbed my shoulders. Looked me over with frantic intensity. Did they touch you? No. You came. You came so fast. I told you I would. His voice was rough. Always. Wherever you are, I come. He pulled me into his chest. I felt his heart hammering. Felt the tremor in his arms as he held me. When I got your signal. His voice broke slightly. I've never driven that fast in my life. He pulled back, cupped my face in both hands. Don't ever scare me like that again. Then he kissed me. Not gentle. Not asking permission. A claim. A brand. A vow written in heat and desperation. I kissed him back. Kissed the man I'd come to destroy. Kissed him like he was oxygen and I was drowning. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. The journals. I forced the words out. I found them. And Alessio. My voice broke. You need to see what was in the safe. I pulled out the photographs. Handed them to him. I watched his face as he looked through them. Watched him die inside. Watched the boy who'd loved his father get murdered by the truth. The photographs fell from his hands. Oh. It was barely a whisper. Not this. Anything but this. I'm sorry. He looked at me with eyes that had gone empty. My father did this. My family's money. My family's ships. My family's protection. All of it built on. He couldn't finish. I took his hand. It was cold as ice. We stop it now. We find whoever's still running it. We burn it all down. He didn't speak. Just squeezed my hand so tight it hurt. Then his phone rang. He answered. Listen. His face went even paler. They took Matteo. The little boy. The orphan Alessio protected. They knew we'd found the evidence. Knew we'd come here. This was a distraction. While we were here, they took him from the estate. His voice was hollow. They're saying if we go public with what we found, the boy dies. I looked at the journals. At the evidence. At 16 years of planning and vengeance in my hands. Then at Alessio's face. At the man I'd kissed. At the partner I'd chosen. The choice was impossible. Evidence or innocence. Justice or mercy. Revenge or love. I picked up the journals. Then we'd trade. The evidence for the boy. But. No buts. Your father's sins don't get to claim another child. We save Matteo. Then we find another way. You'd give up your revenge? For him? I met his eyes. I'd give up everything for him. The truth of it crashed over me. Somewhere between picking his lock and running from killers, between research and wine and desperate kisses, I'd stopped wanting revenge. I'd started wanting him. Alessio pulled me close again. Kissed my forehead. My cheeks. Finally my mouth. We'll get him back. Then we'll finish this. Together. Together. I nodded. We called the number they'd given. Made the trade. Evidence for innocence. Watched them burn the journals that would have destroyed the Ravenna Empire. But I'd photographed every page. Every name. Every route. They didn't know that. 2 days later, the ghost operation was exposed. Not by us. By an anonymous tip to Interpol. Complete with photographs and ledgers and evidence so thorough there was no escape. 15 arrests. Including 3 of Alessio's own captains. The Ravenna Empire shook. But it stood. Because Alessio had been ready. Had restructured everything the moment we got Matteo back safely. Had cut out the rot. Burned the infection. Rebuilt on new foundation. It cost him. Cost us both. But we survived. 6 months later. The office was mine now. Not the main one. The private one. Where I'd picked the lock that started everything. I sat behind the desk reviewing shipping manifests. Legitimate ones. Clean ones. The kind that would survive any investigation. The door opened without knocking. Only one person did that. Alessio crossed to me, pulled me up from the chair and kissed me. Still working? Someone has to make sure this empire stays legal. He smiled. That rare real smile that transformed his face. What would I do without you? Probably revert to crime. Probably. He pulled something from his pocket. A small velvet box. My heart stopped. Mira Valente who isn't Mira Valente. He opened the box. Inside a ring. Simple. Perfect. Will you marry a reformed criminal and help me build something better than what my father left behind? The smart answer was no. The safe answer was no. Yes. He slid the ring onto my finger. Kissed me again. Deeper this time. A promise. I love you, Mira Teresi, daughter of Tommaso. Woman who picked my lock and stole my heart. I love you too, Alessia Ravenna. Son of monsters. Man who chose to be better. We'd found justice. Not revenge. Something harder. Something that required forgiveness and choice and building something new from ashes. My father would have approved. The ghost was finally at rest. And I was home.